My name is Sarah. I'm 25 years old. And for a long time, I believed that working at the family company was a blessing. My parents founded a marketing agency 15 years ago. And since I graduated with a degree in graphic design, I've been working there as a junior, a title that never seemed to change. No matter how many projects I delivered or how many extra hours I put in, the company had about 20 employees, and I knew every process, every client, every campaign we developed. In meetings, I always had ideas, suggestions for improvements, insights about design trends that could revolutionize our projects. But every time I tried to speak, I'd hear, "Sarah, let the adults talk, or you're still learning, honey." The most painful part was seeing how my parents treated me differently from other employees. With the hired designers, they discussed strategies, asked for opinions, valued contributions. With me, it was always do this or help with that, as if I were a perpetual intern, even though I had 3 years of experience and a portfolio I knew was solid. But what really bothered me was the constant feeling of invisibility. At home, I was the daughter. At work, I was the daughter too. I could never be seen as Sarah, the professional, Sarah, the talented designer, Sarah, who had her own ideas and the ability to execute them. This dynamic was about to change in a way I never could have imagined. It was a Tuesday in October when my parents scheduled a dinner at Bella Vista, one of the most elegant restaurants in the city. "This is important," my father said. "We're meeting Marcus Chen, an investor who could be crucial for expanding the agency." I dressed carefully, choosing a blazer that made me feel confident and professional. I thought I would finally be included in the important company discussions. After all, I knew our processes better than anyone, had ideas for expansion, and really wanted to contribute to the family business growth. We arrived at the restaurant, and Marcus Chen was exactly as I had imagined: elegant, attentive, with that look of someone who analyzes every detail. My parents introduced themselves proudly, talked about the company's trajectory, successes, future plans. When it was my turn, my father said, "And this is our daughter, Sarah. She helps with some little things around the office." Some little things, the words echoed in my head like a painful echo. 3 years creating campaigns, developing visual identities, coordinating projects. And I was reduced to some little things. I tried to intervene. "Actually, I work as a graphic designer at the company. And I have some ideas about Sarah." My mother interrupted with a forced smile. "Why don't you just sit quietly? Let us handle the business talk." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus Chen looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Was it pity? Curiosity? I didn't know, but I felt my face burn with shame. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. I heard my parents talking about expansion, new markets, need for talent, while I sat there, invisible, with a 3-year work record being completely ignored that night, lying in bed. I made a decision that would change my life. I was going to prove my worth, not to my parents, but to myself. In the days following the dinner, something fundamental changed in me. For the first time, I began to question, why did I accept being treated this way? Why was my professional self-esteem so tied to my parents' approval? I started observing how other professionals my age positioned themselves in the market. I followed designers on LinkedIn, participated in webinars, dove into online communities of creatives. And one discovery shocked me. I wasn't behind. In fact, my work was at the level or even above many experienced professionals. I decided to do an experiment. I created an anonymous profile on Behance and posted some of my best projects, those I had done for the family company, but which were never credited to my name. In 1 week, I received over 500 views and several compliments from renowned professionals. One comment particularly struck me. "This work demonstrates impressive visual maturity. Who is the designer behind this identity?" For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a daughter, not as a helper, but as a professional. Simultaneously, I began documenting my real work at the company. I discovered that in the last 2 years, I had led even without the Title 12 major campaigns, created 4 complete visual identities, and coordinated projects that generated over $60,000 in revenue. I wasn't a helper. I was a fundamental piece of the operation. With this awareness, I began working on a real professional portfolio. Not hidden, but also not announced. I created detailed case studies, organized my best work, and for the first time in my life, wrote about my vision of design and creative strategy. During the next 4 months, I lived a double life. During the day, I continued being Sarah, who helps with some little things. At night and on weekends, I transformed into the professional I always wanted to be. I started applying for positions at other companies, not because I necessarily wanted to leave the family business, but because I needed to understand my value in the market. The interviews were revealing. Recruiters praised my portfolio, discussed strategies with me, treated me like the experienced professional I was. One recruiter, Anna Paula, was particularly honest. "Sarah, your work is exceptional. Why are you still in a junior position after 3 years?" I couldn't answer at the time, but the question haunted me for weeks. At the same time, I began taking online courses about creative leadership, project management, and design pricing. I discovered that many of the things I did intuitively at the company had methodologies, technical names, and were skills valued by the market. I also started attending industry events. At the first networking event I went to, I introduced myself simply as Sarah, graphic designer, without mentioning the family business. Conversations flowed naturally. I exchanged business cards, discussed projects, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged in the professional world for real. It was at one of these events that I met Rodrigo, creative director of a growing startup. We talked for over an hour about design trends. He saw my portfolio on my phone and said, "If you ever want a change of scenery, look me up. We need someone with your strategic vision." Strategic. No one had ever used that word to describe my work. 6 months after the humiliating dinner, I was a completely different version of myself. I had developed professional confidence, expanded my network, and most importantly, discovered my true value in the market. That's when fate, or perhaps the universe, decided to give me a unique golden opportunity. It was a Friday when I received an unexpected call. On the other end of the line, a familiar voice. "Sarah, this is Marcus Chen. We met a few months ago at dinner with your parents." My heart raced. How had he gotten my number? Why was he calling? "I have an interesting proposal for you. Would you be available to talk in person? Preferably today, if possible." I agreed to meet him at the same restaurant where I had been humiliated months before. The irony didn't go unnoticed. Marcus arrived punctually, with the same elegance I remembered. But this time, his attention was completely focused on me. "Sarah, I'll be direct. That night at dinner, I noticed something your parents might not have perceived. When you tried to talk about your ideas, I saw a spark in your eyes that's rare to find. After that meeting, I decided to research you." My breathing stopped. "I discovered your work on Behance, talked to some contacts in the field who know your portfolio, and I was impressed. Not just with the technical quality, but with your strategic vision." He paused, observing me carefully. "I'm launching a new division of my investment company, focused on branding and digital identity for startups. I need someone to lead the creative department, someone who understands both design and business. And I believe you're that person." The words came out of my mouth almost without me realizing. "But I'm too young. I'm only 25. Marcus smiled. Steve Jobs was 21 when he founded Apple. Age doesn't define competence, Sarah. Talent and vision do. Marcus's proposal was impressive. Salary 3 times higher than what I was receiving. Profit sharing, total creative autonomy, and the opportunity to build a department from scratch. But more important than the money was the recognition. Finally, Someone saw my real potential. I asked for a few days to think, and those were the most intense days of my life. I talked to mentors I had met in recent months, weighed pros and cons, and mainly, had an honest conversation with myself about what I really wanted for my career. The decision came naturally. I would accept the proposal. But first, I decided to have a frank conversation with my parents. I scheduled a meeting at the company at the end of the workday when we would be alone. "Dad, Mom, I need to talk to you about my career." I explained about the proposal, about how I felt undervalued, about my need for professional growth. I hoped they would understand. That maybe they would even be proud of the daughter who had earned such a significant opportunity. The reaction was devastating. "What do you mean you're leaving the company? After everything we've done for you?" My mother said, "You're ungrateful, Sarah. This company is your inheritance, your future," my father added. Neither of them asked about my feelings, my goals, or acknowledged my professional growth. To them, I remained just the daughter who should accept the place they had defined for me in that moment. I understood that my decision was correct. 3 months after accepting Marcus's proposal, I was leading a team of 5 designers in a modern office downtown. We created visual identities for 6 promising startups, developed branding strategies that resulted in significant revenue increases for our clients. And I was finally doing the work I had always dreamed of. But the biggest transformation wasn't professional, it was personal. I discovered that I was much more capable than I had imagined. That I had natural leadership skills, that my creative vision was truly valuable. And mainly, that my worth didn't need to be validated by anyone. Other than myself, my relationship with my parents went through a difficult but necessary restructuring. It took time, frank conversations, and some family therapy sessions, but eventually they began to see me as an independent professional, not just as their daughter. Today, 1 year after that humiliating night at the restaurant, I can say that experience was the push I needed. Not because the humiliation was good, it never is, but because it forced me to question patterns I had accepted without thinking. I learned that our professional self-esteem cannot depend on others' approval, even when those others are our family. I learned that recognition is something we must first give to ourselves. And mainly, I learned that our professional trajectory is our responsibility. The message I want to leave is simple. You have more value than you imagine. The people around. You can't see it. Maybe it's time to find people who can. Your career is your life, and you deserve to be seen, valued, and respected for the incredible professional you are. Today, when I introduce myself, I say with pride, I'm Sarah, creative, director, and I believe every word.